Hey, Scott James here from The Intuitive Musician, and tomorrow is the official theatrical release here in the United States for Star Wars The Force Awakens. I have 3 sets of tickets. I can't wait to see it, and I thought now would be a good time to do a video about my favorite film composer, the man who composed all the music for all the Star Wars movies, John Williams. You've probably heard his work in movies like E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws, Schindler's List, and many, many more. I think he's had something like close to 50 Oscar nominations. Just really an incredible composer and musician. So what I wanted to do here was give a little bit of insight into what I'm looking at when I am profiling a musician on the site. I wanted to kind of take you through what I'm observing when I'm watching interviews with someone and what the clues are that I'm picking up on and what my process is to try and determine with a pretty good degree of confidence what a person's type is. Now, some of this video is going to get a little bit advanced. If you're not up to speed on some of the things that I might talk about, things like cognitive functions and temperaments, you can find some information about that on the site. And I also highly recommend personalityhacker.com. That's where I was originally trained in profiling. They've got some great stuff on there that will help get you up to speed with all this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. What I'm going to do here is roll some clips. You can kind of follow along, see what you pick up on, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm picking up on. And you can kind of compare what it is that you saw to what I saw. So this is the first video like this that I'm doing. If you like videos like this, give me some kind of indication if there's some stuff specifically that you don't understand or anything you want to throw out there. I'd love to get some feedback. So please go ahead and comment on the video. Like, subscribe, whatever I'm going to be looking at. How people react to this video to see if I should do more. And also if you're into this sort of thing and you want to know about a particular musician's personality type, let me know. I certainly take requests, and if I get enough requests for any particular musician, I'll go ahead and make a video on them. So let's go ahead and roll the first clip.
2, 3. The American film composer John Williams, known to his friends as Johnny, is one of the quieter personalities to be found in the movie world. But he's written the music for 45 feature films in the last 20 years, including Star Wars. Now he's conducting the London Symphony Orchestra in his score for the second of the Star Wars trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back, which opens in London on Tuesday.
We had, I think, 1 hour and 47 minutes of orchestral music to compose, orchestrate, and copy, prepare for the orchestra sessions. Sometimes it comes very quickly and there's a nice flow, and other times I hold my head in my hand and think, is it ever going to come? I guess you want to stand under the right kind of rays from heaven, or hope that the muses will not desert us.
Okay. So the clearest indication about his type that I pick up on when I watch that clip is the sound of his voice. It sounds very much like an introvert. Introverts have to expend more energy when they're interacting with the outside world than extroverts most of the time. They sort of have an internal energy bank that they expend this energy from. So they're going to be more reserved, and they're going to be a little more deliberate and conservative in how they spend that energy. Extroverts spend a lot less energy when they're interacting with the outside world, so you'll tend to see them projecting their voice more, speaking much more freely. Now, you have to be careful about this because people are different in different contexts. And of course, there are times when extroverts are going to speak softly and introverts are going to appear to be, speaking more loudly and extroverting more comfortably. What we're looking for here is just a pattern for their energy management. Now, an introvert speaking to someone in a controlled environment where they know the other person well is going to be much more free-flowing with their energy. But in contexts where they're less in control and they don't know so much what's going to happen, or they don't know the person they're interacting with as well, they're going to be more reserved and more deliberate in their energy. And this seems to be pretty clearly the case with John Williams in just about everything that I've seen with him. And the narrator also backs that up in the beginning when he says he's one of the more shy personalities that you'll see in the music world. So let's go ahead and roll the next clip.
I wonder, Mr. Williams, if you might say a word to us. And I deliberately don't want to color this question much more, but I wonder if you might say a word to us about the power that music is pregnant with to help us connect and even at times revel in the humanity of the character. I think that I don't purport to speak for everybody in this room, but I think I can on this one, which is to suggest that when we see film, the films that work best for us are the films where we can connect to the humanity in the character.
It is a magic. And an evening like this, it isn't a bad idea to quote Alfred Hitchcock, who said, I don't think exactly word for word, but in film, music represents the words that cannot be spoken. Mm-hmm. And music unites entire peoples. It unites entire religions. Its power is very great. I don't think any of us really fully understand how it works. Leonard Bernstein in his lectures would tell us all the universality of harmony, the overtone series and so on, which many people will understand. But a do is a do and a soul is a soul. Wherever you are in the world, the division of sound is in nature, and it is applied like gravity to every human being. And so even though harmonic vocabulary from one culture to another differs, and there's a certain acculturation that takes place with a certain progression of harmony, if it's Wagner and so on, that we respond to. People outside of the languages may not quite respond in the same way. Yeah. But it is true, and Bernstein was trying to demonstrate always, where Noam Chomsky was trying to demonstrate universalities in language, like the word mama. Mm-hmm. There are tremendous universalities in music, as he explained to us. My attempts to try to support these films and reach people and through what they hear is mostly really an intuitive thing, and the application of the modulatory structures of music and so on, and manipulations, if you like. I mean, composing for me is really like sculpting. I mean, you really take a chunk out of the stone, another chunk, and finally it reveals itself. What's inside the stone we didn't know when we began. We will find it. We are not always as successful as, but in my case, of course, I talked a half an hour or so ago about the orchestra. The expressive power and performance of music is also another great thing. You and I chatted about our mutual friend Jessie Norman earlier in the evening. Mm-hmm. Well, Jessie would take the stage and she would unite everyone in the audience with her art, with her training, with her voice, with her gift.
Okay, so I think that video gives some pretty good clues as to what his personality type is. I think it really does a lot to help us narrow it down. The first thing that pops out to me is that he appears pretty clearly to be coming from an intuitive perspective. He's not talking about things that are directly observable using our senses. He's talking about big, abstract, conceptual ideas. Pretty consistently throughout that. He sounds very much like an intuitive to me. Now, to get a little more fine-tuned, we're going to need to get into the cognitive functions, which will give us some more clues about his type. Now, the attitude of his intuition, as they call it technically, or the sort of type or brand of intuition that he's using, appears to me to be introverted intuition. So what introverted intuition does is it goes into the unconscious and it shifts things around, data points in our head, shifts them around until things snap into place, sort of like a Rubik's Cube. It's kind of always looking for how the world works. It's and the answers that it gives us tend to be, they stretch deep into the unconscious. So these tend to be very deep ideas that will come out. These are deep answers, deep observations, and that certainly appears to me to be a process that he uses very often. That would indicate that he is likely, if we assume that he is an introvert, and everything that we've seen up to this point appears consistent with that, and we also accept that he is using introverted intuition very often, then we can kind of start to put together the pieces of the puzzle. We can, from that, ascertain that he is most likely INTJ or INFJ. And if you want to get really fine-tuned, it appears to me that he is using a process called introverted thinking in combination with his introverted intuition. This points a little to the direction of INFJ. Because of their tertiary process, introverted thinking, INFJs will tend to look at things from a very holistic perspective. INTJs use a process called extroverted thinking. So what they'll do often is they will use their introverted intuition, and when they combine that with their extroverted intuition, they'll use that sort of Rubik's Cube process to find answers that will produce results. So they're often looking to solve specific problems, and when they've solved that problem, they will stop there and they will move on. They have a sort of practical side to them that differs from how INFJs work. INFJs are kind of looking at they're looking at things again from a more holistic perspective, and they really want to know how the whole big picture works. They tend to be probably more conceptual and a little less practical. Now, there's certainly some crossover. They both use introverted intuition as their primary function. So they're going to have a lot of things in common, but this is somewhere that they differ, and it appears to me that John Williams is using the introverted thinking that an INFJ would use. Now, another thing that you might have picked up on is an indication that he may well be of the intuitive feeler or idealist temperament. One of the things that he mentions in there is how music unifies people and how it unifies religions, and how a performer's artistry can help unify people. That sounds very intuitive feeler to me. That's not a whole lot to go on, so I wouldn't lock that into place too firmly in terms of putting together the whole puzzle, but that seems to point in that direction. So we're starting to see a particular pattern emerge here for what type he may be. So let's watch some more clips and see what else we can pick up on.
This is the very famous and successful Maestro John Williams.
Oh, John.
How was that for an introduction?
Oh, that's a wonderful introduction.
I practiced it for about a week, and I put on my best suit. To the
Well, it was just grand. Thank you very much. And I'm so happy to be with you, John, and to speak to our viewers and have a little chat with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, well, you know, the Music Express readers know a lot about you already. And they've listened to your music and sung your songs. And I'm just so delighted that they get to actually see you in person and hear you about your amazing career. So I put together a bunch of questions. And I'm just going to get right at them because they don't need to hear me talk. We want to hear from you.
Okay, so depending on what you were looking for in that particular clip, you may or may not have tuned into this. But what you'll notice if you go back and rewatch that is that John Williams really does a lot to mirror the interviewer's body language. He seems to have a sensitivity to his energy. You'll notice with the head nods and then leaning forwards and leaning backwards. This indicates that extroverted feeling is likely. There's a good chance that he is a feeler judger. So again, we're going to want to be looking for things that would indicate that would confirm that, or that would be a counter argument to that. But that's one thing that you might notice from that clip. So let's go ahead and roll the next one.
You used two words a moment ago, and I want to ask a question. I'm only being half or part silly with it. But you used the word intuition and manipulation just a moment ago. I wonder, given this immense gift that you have, whether or not you ever feel guilty the way you manipulate our feelings, the way you evoke out of us, since we're talking about evocation, the way you evoke out of us what you want. It's a wonderful gift, but you really play with our emotions, man. You ever feel guilty about that?
Well, maybe manipulate was not a well-chosen word. Maybe the exercise of a certain craft might be a better way of putting it. But I think we may have, in certain scenes, a genuine emotional target.
Right.
Where we want to touch people in a certain way, an aggressive way, or a gentle way, a soothing way, a healing way. All of these things will be in your mind. If it's to be healing, what does that?
Yes.
So much of a process of how we learn our language, our general education and acculturation and so on, all of these things are all linked together. And all of us who work in communication, which is what music is really all about, right, essentially deals with finding connections. I always think I would stop by just saying, it isn't the music, it isn't the orchestra, it isn't the composer, it's the connection or the audience, it's the connective link, the nexus, the linking of all of that together. Composer, I'm just a guy who puts dots on the paper, it means nothing. Gustavo conducts, orchestra plays it, the audience hears it. It is this interconnection of all of these elements that makes music music.
I'm watching my time, I'm going to move on, but just between the two of us, nobody's listening, just between you and me. But there have to be moments when you're sitting at your desk or your workstation, wherever you work, when you write something, you say, I'm going to kill him with this one. I'm going to get him with this one. When they hear this, oh God, the tears. You, between the two of us, you've had those moments, haven't you, John Williams?
I honestly,
come on, man, keep it real, keep it real.
Put it this way, there are moments when I'm more secure than other moments.
Okay, so again, there at the end, a little bit of a body language indicator, as Tavis Smiley says, between you and me, and he instinctively leans in and kind of mirrors his body language a bit. And there are also some clues throughout that that kind of have some consistency with some of the other things that we observed. But also another thing is that when we're talking about extroverted feeling types, extroverted feeling composers and songwriters will be more oriented to how other people feel a lot of times when they write music. Now, there are different modes that people can have, different things they can be thinking about, but an introverted feeling type will be more likely to talk about taking emotions that they feel that may be, universal, and expressing those in a sort of universal way. They might use different language, but extroverted feeling types are, and this is, kind of the language that he used, and then Tavis Smiley reiterated about manipulating emotions. And John Williams elaborates a little more on that, about talking about how you want the other person to feel. Again, this sounds like an extroverted feeling user. So I would say there seems to be a pretty good pattern and a pretty good case here, and this again remains consistent with all the other footage that I watched, that John Williams is INFJ. So this is my first video like this. If you guys like videos like this, let me know. And if you have different musicians that you'd like me to do a video like this about, let me know in the comments. And again, if you like the video, subscribe, hit the like button, give me some indication, let me know. I'll do more of what you guys want to see. So that's it for now. I hope a lot of you all are going to see Star Wars, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I hope I do. Cheers.